So let's see. What I see reading his little commentary is that he's basically saying that if you take $1 in the derivatives in lost in one account, the dollar is literally accredited to another account. In here we're talking about trillions of dollars moved from one side, not billions. The world exchanges are settling every transaction, and the transactions are settled. What is your input on something statement like that?
Well, it's hard to tell because derivatives are not publicly traded for the most part. They're custom made for the most part, and they don't have a ready market for the most part. And so it's hard to say what's trading where or if at all. And that's one of the problems government has because there's no regulation. We don't know exactly how many is out there. The Bank for International Settlements reports on it. They say that there's $60 trillion worth of credit swaps out there, credit default swaps, and what they are is insurance against a company's bond going under or a company's stock going under. And they're going to have big problems with General Motors on this because there's 3 times as many derivatives out there as there are General Motors bonds, so it'll be interesting to see how they settle that and whether the people who wrote the derivatives have the money to pay off. The money that was funneled through AIG before, that the Fed wouldn't tell you where it went or what happened to it, that money went to people that were owed money by AIG, which had written derivatives and didn't keep any of the money. They put it in bonuses and used it for other things in the company. And when they went under, there was $101.4 billion worth of debt that had to be paid or written off. And the American taxpayer was allowed to pay off AIG's debts via the Fed. And this is the sort of thing that's going on. This is a bailout of Wall Street, banking, insurance companies, corporate America, and they're screwing the American public's feet right into the ground.
On the BBC News before the show, it was mentioned that General Motors has lost $6 billion in the last 3 months. What is your? This is $6 billion of the stimulus package that was given to them. What does this say to you as far as an investor into the United States in the economy? The government is buying into the General Motors, and the president is telling General Motors what to do. Why can't these people just let them go bankrupt?
Well, I think they'll do that on June 1st, but the government is going to put an additional $7.5 billion into the company next week to keep them going until they declare bankruptcy on June 1st. And out of the assets that are left in the company, ostensibly the government will get paid back. What's going to happen to the bondholders and stockholders remains to be seen. What will be left, I don't know. The thing is like a dog's breakfast. And, they should have never let it go this far. These companies should have been allowed to go bankrupt 4 and 5 years ago. I mean, they've been in trouble for the last 8 years. I mean, they're giving deals on cars and they can't make any money. It was just to keep the assembly lines going. And that's why you had all of these 60-month loans, nothing down, and guarantees and all of this. I mean, the guarantees alone are going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars in Chrysler and General Motors. I mean, the American public's paying for everything, and it's wrong. The administration is wrong. The previous administration was just as bad. What do? I don't know. A lot of people leaving for a foreign country. But
well, I understand that.
Yeah, well, you can understand why people are thinking in those terms. And incidentally, they just did a poll in England, and 25% of the people who live in England are in preparation to leave the country.
Wow.
and they're in worse shape than we are. What's that?
Where would they go?
I think the best destinations for them are New Zealand and Australia. Canada's not a good destination. Prices are 30% higher than they are, and more, for things than they are in the United States. They're a socialist society for the most part, and they're going to be very negatively affected by the slowdown of manufacturing, and already have been in Ontario and Quebec, which are key provinces, and now the city of Toronto, which is like 4 or 5 million people. They have stopped. The city has stopped using American products because the stimulus package wouldn't allow the use of Canadian products, and the products have been actually even taken out of production, once they were there, having been sent from Canada to a production site and so on. And so the Canadians are very upset about it. But, we have been attacked by every nation in the world that suppresses the value of their currencies, subsidize their industries. In the case of Canada, they've been shipping 85% of their exports to the United States, and Mexico's in the same boat. And we can't compete. And this has got to stop. And the only way to stop that is to put up tariffs on goods and services. And America needs that, and it needs it now. And the other thing they need to do is to pass legislation to audit the Federal Reserve and then get rid of it.
Well, I agree with that last statement 1,000%. I've got a number of people that feel that the Federal Reserve ought to be audited and closed. Well, I have a gentleman over in Colorado that came forth and he says, Mr. Chapman, let's see, tell Bob that Chrysler will most likely not honor anyone injured by its products after it gets sold. What, in reference to that commentary, what do you think Chrysler was going to do with all of these guarantees, bumper-to-bumper warranties, once they go into bankruptcy? Does that close all them off too? Does that just put them?
No, the government said they're going to pay them, and you get to pay for it.
No, the government's going to pay for it, but the people end up having to pay for it.
Yeah. And incidentally, on that Federal Reserve Transparency Act of 2009, Ron Paul's bill, H.R. 1207, there's 159 co-sponsors. It stands a good chance of getting passed.
150.
You should call. You should contact every congressman in the House and tell them you want it out of committee and you want it passed.
Well, it only needs 220 to pass, 225 to pass.
Something like that.
We've already got 2/3 of that.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
Which is amazing. I think that the House members are under tremendous pressure from their constituents. And the reason I say that is for that many to co-sponsor is really unusual, seeing that almost all of them are getting paid off by the bankers and Wall Street.